2 qualifying sessions, but today the pressure is on, so keeping out of trouble in the opening race is going to be absolutely crucial. Gemma Scott down on the grid, David Addison trackside, and the man on pole position after a really good run in the qualifying session yesterday, standalone sessions for each race, is Luc Ibanez in the NM Racing Team Mercedes, and there in the sunshine is this very spectacular grid of over 40 of them, looking down with the McLaren of Bernard Laber, hopefully to join the back of the grid, but that car had dramas yesterday. Pole position, as I say, to Mercedes, with the front of the grid also being occupied by Toyota. You can see there up against the pit wall, second qualifier Stéphane Lemerey, and then on the second row of the grid, Nicolas Gomard for AGS Events with the Aston Martin, and the Alpine of Vincent Beltoise. So lots of variety, as ever, in GT4 European Series. Of course, there's the mandatory pit stop in this series. That comes between 25 and 35 minutes. It is 103 seconds that the pit stop must last. And let us, first of all, before we talk more about the race, go down to the grid and join Gemma Scott with the Alpine team.
Loris, ici on est chez le grille de départ. Hier, chez la qualification, on a vu beaucoup de problèmes avec les track limits. On va devoir ça aussi dans la course?
Ouais, je pense, parce que hier déjà en qualif, il y avait beaucoup de track limits. On a vu aussi la course de GT3 hier soir, où il y en a eu beaucoup, avec des pénalités qui ont tombé. Donc ouais, je pense qu'on va en voir pendant la course.
Faire attention et bon courage.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Loris, just talking about the track limits issue that were a problem yesterday in qualifying and also in the GT3 race last night, where we saw lots of penalties. So they want to be very, very careful for that in today's race.
Thanks, Gemma. Yes, Loris Cabirou, who will take over number 30 Alpine. Track limits were a problem. Actually, a bigger problem, as it turned out at the end of qualifying yesterday, was the number of drivers that had improved a lap time under waved yellow flags. So there are 7 drivers on this grid who've all copped, or their car has copped, a 3-place grid drop, and therefore the grid is slightly shuffled compared to what times were set relative to these 3-place grid penalties that have been applied to 7 cars, 7 drivers picking them up. So basically it's a grid drop for the next race in which you compete, thus the first race of the weekend. You've seen the Mercedes, that's the Toyota, the GR Supra, GR for Gazoo Racing, and there you see the Toyota Gazoo Racing badge on the side of the car. That's going to be Stéphane Lemerey and Antoine Potti. Third on the grid, Nicolas Gomard, sharing with Eric Hare. Very experienced driver is Nicolas Gomard. Eric Hare had a spin in his qualifying session yesterday. He will start race 2, and that's the AGS Events Aston, and the very pretty little Alpine, for which there is, of course, a European one-make series run by CMR, Classic Modern Racing, the same team, actually, that operates the Toyota Supra ahead on the grid. Vincent Beltoise will start, and as you heard from him, Loris Cabirou will take over. 5th on the grid, number 42, the first of the Audis that you get to, again, underlining the variety that you have in GT4. This is Fabien Michel to start. Greg Gilbert, very, very quick driver, he will take over, and that has had 1 Pro-Am win already this year. We don't have pros in this, we have silvers, Pro-Ams and Ams, and the Audi had a Pro-Am win at Monza for the first meeting of the year. 1 minute to go to the start, and 6th on the grid is the Hella Paggi Racing 1. There it is, Aston Martin. The very quick Markus Lungstrass will start there. So the grid now being cleared. It is, of course, a rolling start, so the drivers don't stop on the grid, they go straight into the race if the race director, Steve Burns, is happy with how everybody is lined up, ready to go. Luc Ibanez then on pole position in the Mercedes, and that is a car that certainly has plenty of grunt, which you need around here. You've got the long, fast pit straight, the even longer, even faster Mistral straight, and for Mercedes, trying to salvage something out of a lean weekend in GT3 terms. Last night, lots of punctures affected the cars in the 6-hour Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS Endurance Cup second round. So Mercedes would like something to crow about, if only in GT4 terms this weekend. Countdown continues, rolling start about to get underway. Then in the championship, the Silvers, led by the United Autosports McLaren pairing of Charlie Fagg and Bailey Voisin, who won both Monza races in fine style. Second in silver, or notionally third in silver, Stéphane Lemerey and Antoine Potti. 5th, the other UA McLaren of Dean McDonald and Gus Bowers. And then 7th, Luc Ibanez, there he is, leading the cars away, and Javier Lloveras. In the Pro-Ams, Greg Gilbert, Fabien Michel, the leaders. 7 points up on Romain Iannetta and Eric Clement. A look at the grid, it's Luc Ibanez and Stéphane Lemerey then that start on the front row, ahead of Nicolas Gomard and Vincent Beltoise. On the third row, the grid is Fabien Michel and Markus Lungstrass, Audi and Aston Martin. Starting 7th, Christophe Amon's Audi, Paul Everard's Mercedes alongside, ahead of the Chevrolet of Job Ropange and the Porsche of Joel Sturm next. Then you have Thomas Audier's team speed car Audi, ahead of Robert Consani. Next row of the grid, César Gazzo for, again, AGS Events, Aston Martin and Gas Bowers just ahead of Bailey Voisin and Wilfried Casabon. Sebastian Bird is on row 9 with Luca Bosco lining up alongside him. Then it's Konstantin Dressler and Jean-Luc Daria, one to watch maybe making some progress ahead of Ruben Delsart and Tom Canning, another of those penalised, ahead of Rui Mihaus. He's another penalised driver. Alexander Hartwig comes next on the grid, and alongside him is going to be Stéphane Guérin. Ivan Giacomo starts next. He had a Pro-Am win at Monza. Eric Clement is alongside. Then it's Paolo Maloney and the experienced Jean-Luc Bobelik ahead of Hugo Conde and Mauro Ricci. Jody Bullo is on the 16th row alongside a spinner yesterday, Jean-Ludovic Foubert. Johan Vannerum is on the 17th row with Philippe Varver to line up alongside ahead of Amadeo Pampanini and Ivan Stevenart. Then it's Pascal Bachmann on the 19th row with Christian Gysi alongside. The penultimate row, Piotr Hodgson starts, and alongside him is Christian Leconte. And the last car on the grid should be number 60, Richard Distel with the Team GT McLaren. And so the question mark is going to be over number 66, which is the Bernhard Laber Alain Vallon entry, which did, I think, one lap in the first session, had to be retrieved and didn't go out in Q2. It's not been put onto the grid, the published grid, but whether it can creep in at the back, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not aware that it has gone out because it's not tripped the timing beam at the start of this formation lap. So it does look as though number 66, McLaren, is withdrawn from the competition. Whether it can be made good for race 2, I'm not convinced either. It had a litany of problems over free practice as well. So there, number 42, going out of the chicane that these cars have to contend with on the Mistral Straight. The Audi to be started here by Fabien Marchal. And as the cars now turn their way up to the senior right-hander, it's not the quickest of warming up laps, but the drivers still being pretty energetic to get some temperature into the Pirelli tyres on which they all run. And you can see how far the field stretches as they go now up through the approach to the chicane on the Mistral Straight. Mandatory pit stop. Everybody in this race does have a co-driver on occasions. You have Bob Herber doing it as a soloist, but he's not here this weekend, so it's the format of 2 drivers across every car. And GT4 racing that really has boomed in the last few seasons with the manufacturers getting involved rather than the tuners made a big difference. And turnkey race cars, a big attraction to teams, to drivers, to customers, plus the fact that you can use them in lots of other different categories. GT4, as it spreads, becoming very popular as a category, increasingly so, and like GT3 has spread to all corners, so too has this. You've got 5 different brands in the top 6 alone, and look down the entry, you've got Mercedes taking on Toyota, taking on Audi, taking on Aston Martin, you've got BMW on the grid, there is Chevrolet, there is Porsche, there is McLaren, there is Alpine. That gives you 9. It's probably one I've missed, but it does underline the variety that GT4 now has. As I said, since the manufacturers started building cars rather than the tuners having to convert them, it really has blossomed. It was a slow burn, but Stefan Rattel had always believed in GT4. It had strong years, not so strong years, but the last few seasons it really has blossomed. And there is still talk, because it was on the calendar last year but then had to be scrapped because of COVID, for a GT4 World Final. We had a GT4 International Series race, or one-off race at the Bahrain FIA Nations Cup GT event, and it does again illustrate with more and more of these cars around the globe that it can't be long before we do get them all together for a World Final. It runs in America, there are national championships, European championships, so GT4 continues to go from strength to strength, and this promises to be another fascinating race. It's absolutely wide open with so many quick cars, and with, of course, the Silvers taking on the Pro-Ams at the pointy end of the grid. You'll see some cars rise and fall depending on who is behind the wheel. So 15 is the pole car. That is Luc Ibanez, who was very rapid indeed throughout his session yesterday. We're about to go racing. It is a 60-minute race. As the cars now come up towards the timing line, the lights will go green, and we will get the race then underway. Now they blast away, and a good getaway by Ibanez then as the cars power down towards turn 1, but right up alongside him is Stéphane Lemray in the Toyota that's got a lot of grunt in a straight line. There it is on the outside line. They brake for turn 1. Ibanez's car snakes under braking. Lemray tries to go round the outside and give himself the inside line for turn 2, way up the curb. Fantastic moment for Lemray to just about hang on to that, and amazingly keep second place. Hasn't got the best momentum because the wheels weren't touching the ground for very long, but even though he's lost a chunk of time to the leader, he did manage to get it back onto all fours and hang on to second place. Lemeray now all sideways, so saved on rubber wear for a corner or so, and Lemeray is just about second. In third place, Nicolas Goma crawling all over the back of him, but some run way wide there, down at turn 3, now up through Saint-Baume towards the Mistral straight for the first time. So a lively start, as you see everybody there weaving their way up through Saint-Baume, and then L'École onto the Mistral. Another of the Toyotas, that of Wilfried Casabon, there goes through the shot. And the United Autosports McLarens on the prowl. Number 23, the winning car from both races at Monza, the Bailey Voisin Charlie Fagg entry. As there, Yacht Raponge dives up the inside of the blue and green Chevrolet Camaro. 22 Porsche is another one that's worth watching. Joel Sturm starts, Nikolai Rother-Madsen to take over. Sturm was on the front row of the grid at Monza. And there, a bit of contact as another of the Alpines gets in strife, number 36 that is, which is being started by Stéphane Guérin. Gets away with it, but was given a bit of hip and shoulder through the mid part of that chicane. So, lap 1 up towards the right-hander of Bousset. They come, and the lead gap is coming down as there the Astons have traded places with Henrik Lundstrass now going up into third place. Round the outside goes Vincent Beltoise, and the little Alpine tries to scuttle round the outside of Nicolas Goma, but he can't quite do it as Ibanez leads up towards the long left-hander of Bendor for the first time, then towards Village and on towards Tours towards the end of the lap. So the road snaking its way here towards the completion of lap 1, and Ibanez leads. Lemeray second, and then up from 6th on the grid is Markus Lundstrass, going very nicely indeed. Next up, a dive to the inside line there, look, because the next of the Mercedes trying to make progress, and that, by the look of it, is 88, which is the car in the hands of Paul Everard, making good progress too. Up towards the timing line they come then. So at the end of lap 1, Ibanez leads Lemeray by a second. Third is Lundstrass, fourth is Goma, fifth is Beltoise, sixth is indeed Everard, seventh is Fabien Michel in the Audi. In 8th place, Bailey Voisin there, look, in the orange and blue McLaren. 9th is Joel Sturm's Porsche, and 10th is the Grunt and Go Chevy in the hands of Yacht Raponge, the Dutch driver. So the leading gap, 1 second at the end of the opening tour. And it is Luc Ibanez then now trying to break clear of two-wheeler Lemeray. Remy Julien would be well impressed with all that stunt driving on 2 wheels through the second part of the chicane, as there to the outside line, looking for a clear bit of track space, is the second of the United Autosports McLarens. That is Gus Bowers, racing here for the first time and getting a big whack in the back there, as ploughing into the tail end of the car goes the Jean-Luc Daria Mercedes. So lack of track knowledge on the part of some, always a factor in this championship, but Jean-Luc Daria being very keen to find a way past, a bit too keen. Right, replay of the start. So it was a good getaway by Ibanez, but the Toyota Supra standing its ground on the outside. What Lemeray wanted was to try and keep on the outside so that the road came to him at turn 2. The plan kind of worked because he did have the inside line, but he also had the curb, and that's what did for him. Here from another angle, you see 1 or 2 going to the very inside, crossing that white line. On the outside line, look, is Lemeray, but he kept on coming round the outside briefly into the lead of the race, and there is the curb as he bounces back onto the road, way up onto 2 wheels. And from another angle, there's the curb and up onto 2 wheels. Just about got away with that. Crash lands back to earth, rattles his fillings, and hung on to second place somehow. But that gave, briefly, Ibanez the chance to build that lead and get away to lead at the end of the opening lap of this 1-hour GT4 European Series race. So these are the 2 race leaders, very definitely now getting away from the opposition as they come up towards the Virage du Pont at the end of lap number 2. So Ibanez ahead of Lemeray, and then the battle for third, rather delaying everybody involved by the look of it, because look, these 2 have checked out. Up towards the timing line they come. Their third is Lundstrass, fourth is Beltoise, fifth is Goma. In that mix too is Everard. That's Yacht Raponge going way wide in the Chevrolet. They got involved in an accident at Monza in the first race, missed the second. It's good that they're back on the grid here as the leaders go by, and Lemeray has done the fastest lap of the race thus far, so he's bringing that gap down to Ibanez. There is Lundstrass going through third, and look at this little battle pack for fourth. Beltoise has also now got ahead of Goma. 6th is Everard, and 7th is Bailey Voisin. There he is in the McLaren. So Bailey Voisin, the Ginetta Junior graduate, getting to know Paul Ricard, and now also getting on with the job, getting his pace better. So he's part of that battle pack for third place, and to put Charlie Fagg in the car for the second stint, it's going to go very rapidly as well. There, under attack 26, that is the Allied Racing Porsche. Alexander Hartwig at the wheel of it, and he loses out. As up the inside goes the Audi of Roy Meyerhas, the Israeli driver. One of many penalised with that 3-place grid drop for improving a lap time under waved yellow flags in the qualifying session yesterday. So Ibanez, quicker than anybody in the first sector as he tries to build the lead. Lemeray has done the fastest lap of the race, as I say. And as the cars now power their way up towards the chicane, there to the inside line goes Bailey Voisin, and he goes through on the inside, gets himself up past the Paul Everard Mercedes. So Bailey Voisin learning fast about Paul Ricard. Nothing wrong with his pace, that is for sure. It's just that he hasn't done as many miles around here as many of the French drivers, for example, because the French GT Championship runs to GT4 spec, and therefore it does have around here. But Voisin, runner-up in Ginetta Juniors in the UK last year, turns out of the right-hander of Senior, and now the McLaren starts to chip away at Nicolas Gomard just up the road ahead. So there is the double Monza winning car from the Silver Cup through Beausset now. Ibanez the leader, second Stéphane Lemeray. Stéphane, hugely experienced driver. We're getting track limits warnings now, inevitably perhaps. One actually is going the way of Vincent Beltoise, and another is for Eric Clement, another experienced driver. Wilfried Casalbon's Toyota has got a problem and has come into the pit lane. You see it on the graphic as 41st. Well, it's in the pits, so has he had a moment? We didn't see it, but normally those cars are pretty bulletproof. Battle for 7th rages on right now as Everard is under attack, look, from the hard-charging Joel Sturm in the Porsche, and behind Sturm is Fabien Michel. At the moment, the leading Pro-Am is Marcus Lundstrass from Nicolas Gomard, and then the leaders go through the margin 1.3 seconds. Sorry, Lundstrass is the leading out, forgive me. And there, Joel Sturm to the inside of Everard and goes through. So 7th place trades. Porsche goes ahead of Mercedes. So yes, the leading Pro-Am at the moment is the Fabien Michel, Greg Gilbert Audi, and it's in this group, number 42 there. And now on to the tail of Paul Everard with Yot Raponge closing right up as well in the Chevrolet, a car that in many ways you'd anticipate to be really well suited to this circuit because of the long straights. The Mistral and indeed the pit straight should play into the hands of that car. It's not quite so happy through the twiddly bits though. Now the race lead gap, 1.3 seconds last time, and Luc Ibanez then is trying to get away all the while from Stéphane Lemeray. There through is 42 Audi leading in Pro-Am, Fabien Michel. So Marcus Lundstrass, third overall, as well as being an Am, and there in strife is another of the Caymans, 26 facing the wrong way. That is Alexander Hartwig in the car that he shares with Joachim Mathias, and the Allied Racing entry gets going again, but with damage clearly, so that I fear may be bound for the pit lane. As there, the Audi of Fabien Michel comes under attack from Raponge. Great little battle going on behind as well. Another of the Audis under huge attack, number 69. That is Christophe Amon. And up with him is César Gazot in the second of the AGS events, Aston Martins. And in fact, there's a third car in that battle pack. Look, trying one side and then the other. It's another of the Audis diving up now towards Signes, and it's Thomas Odier in the speed car entry. Can't quite find a way by. The wrong side of the floppy markers there is forced. Number 69 Audi. Back onto the road goes Christophe Amon, but he's lost his place. Up and past him has gone César Gazot. So the Aston Martin trading places with the Audi. Up now through Bendor they come, on towards Village. César Gazot just ahead for the moment in the hard-charging Aston Martin through the Virage du Pont they come. 10 minutes about to be completed by the race leaders as Ibanez is now 1.8 seconds clear of Lemeray. Bailey Voisin remains a man to watch because he did an absolute best in the second sector on that last lap. Bailey Voisin is now up into 5th place. César Gazot under attack once more as the Aston Martin fends off Christophe Amon. Amon under attack as well. Odier in number 5 Audi to the inside line there. So side by side they run down towards turn 2, and Thomas Odier should brake later, uses the curb, and he does go through on the inside line. So Thomas Odier now up into 12th place, relieving therefore Christophe Amon of the position. Up front though, Ibanez continues to edge clear. He has now done the fastest lap of the race, a 2:14.3. It was a 2:13.9 that was the pole time. But of course the car's heavier now because they've got to do this hour of racing, so they've got a heavier fuel load on board as number 15 dances its way through that chicane. It's a rather stretched chicane. Really, it's a corner, a straighter corner. Now there's 26, that is the Allied Racing Porsche we saw a spin from a little while ago. Alexander Hartwig has brought it in. It was leaking fluid from the front, so Hartwig is in, and that rather looks like the end of the race. Now how did he get there? Let's have a look. These are two of the Mercedes trading paint. as clattering up the inside of Jean-Ludovic Foubert goes number 61, that being the Mauro Ricci Mercedes. Actually, yes, that was an independent bit of contact, didn't involve the Porsche. That had its own dramas. Right, there's Beltoise, he's fourth, and Bailey Voisin is on his tail. Beltoise about to go third as Longstrauss goes deep through Beausset, and the Alpine sneaks up the outside line coming into the next corner. Into Bendor they come, and the Aston gets the place back. Beltoise, hugely experienced driver, switches sides, and Bailey Voisin in number 23, the McLaren there, waiting for it to end in tears possibly and pick up the pieces. Beltoise attacking and defending. He's trying to get past the Aston, he's trying to keep the McLaren at bay. So three very different brands here. Aston Martin, Alpine, McLaren, brake, turn into the Virage Dupont up towards the end of lap number 5. You get the feeling that the Alpine is going to be good through the twisty bits, but may lose out in a straight line. And what about the McLaren behind? It's got a nice slippery shape, good through the air, that car. And over the line, third, fourth, fifth run together. Bailey Voisin pulls out, has a look. So now does Beltoise, who lunges up the inside of Markus Lungstrass, and he goes through. So that puts the little Alpine back up into third place. Markus Lungstrass down to fourth. And straight away, he's going to have to be on the defensive, because right on his tail is the McLaren. Bailey Voisin is on the attack as they come now down towards the chicane into turn 2. So the Alpine has gone through. Can it get away? See the way that Beltoise is wringing the neck of that car. He knows his way around here. The Caterham ambassador, very experienced French racer, and behind him is Lundstrass. Behind Lundstrass is Bailey Voisin. Once more onto the Mistral Straight they come. And as their field accelerates once more towards the chicane, Voisin lines up for a go to get past Lundstrass. He has the inside line, and he's got the stopping power as well. So through he goes. Bailey Voisin working his way forward. That now puts him up into fourth place. Bearing in mind that the car started further back on the grid than they would have liked, on the 8th row, 15 fastest. This is a very, very good drive up through the field, but the Aston fights back. Look, Markus Lundstrass had a look on the outside line, couldn't find a way by, so Bailey Voisin 15th to 4th now, turns up through the right-hander of Seed, out wide, just avoids those markers that say, here, you've got to be back on the road. Lundstrass, again, seems to carry a bit too much speed into Beausset, although equally wide there ahead of him was Bailey Voisin, so he's dropped a couple of lengths to Beltoise in the Alpine. Battle on once more for fourth place. Lundstrass, the loser over the last lap, though. From third to fifth, he's dropped. Sixth behind him is Nico Gomar, who is still leading there, going through the shot in the Aston. Sorry, he's not leading. He's second in the AM class, because it is Lundstrass who remains the class leader. So Nico Gomar trying to bring down that gap, despite out-qualifying Markus Lundstrass. He's lost out in the early part of the race. There is the Team Spirit Racing Aston over the line, but the overall race leader, Luc Ibanieff, goes through. And what's the margin this time? It's up to 3 seconds now. Stéphane Lemeray is struggling to stay with him. It could all change, of course, in the second stint as they go now through the first sequence of corners through Verrier. There is Beltoise, now coming under attack from Bailey Voisin. So this is the fight for third, and the McLaren, like the Alpine, making good progress as the stint wears on. But again, just to make the point there, number 23, the McLaren of Bailey Voisin and Charlie Fagg from 15th on the grid. They won both races at Monza. Certainly a podium could be on the cards here. If Bailey Voisin can do this, and Charlie Fagg's the more experienced, he's in the second stint, you've got to say it's looking good. They are 8 seconds off the race lead, although again, as you get to the part of the circuit where power counts, there's the Aston Martin behind in the hands of Markus Lundstrass. Sixth is Nicolas Gomar, and Gomar is 11 tenths back from Lundstrass, and that's your AM class lead battle as well brewing up. But look at the way the McLaren in a straight line is able to get a bit of a tow, get onto the back of the Alpine, although Beltoise covers off the inside line up towards the chicane. Voisin thinks about the outside. Beltoise knows a trick or two around Paul Ricard. He knows exactly where to put the car, and he hangs on to third place. This will not be an easy pass for Bailey Voisin. So we've done 15 minutes, and you've got to do 25 before you can think about the pit stops. There's number 30 Alpine then, in third place, Vincent Beltoise. Best lap still done by the race leader, which is Ibanieff. And there is Bailey Voisin trying now to find a gap on the inside line into Beausset. He's got a slightly tighter line, has he? Doesn't really pay out for him, and in fact the car just washes out slightly wide through that long, long corner, and he drops a length as they accelerate now up towards Bendor. through Village now, approaching the back of the paddock, and then on towards Tours, which is the left-hander here that tightens all the way around. Then you've got to stand on the brakes and get the car slowed down for the Virage du Pont. So Bailey Voisin goes out of the left and into the Virage du Pont now, also having to make sure that that car can't dive bomb him up the inside line, because Markus Lundstrass is still there. But behind Lundstrass is the hard-charging Nicolas Gomar. Also coming into the mix in 7th place is Joel Sturm. Now, Sturm shares with former Silver Cup champion Nikolai Müller-Madsen. Used to be a real gun in Audis, but if Joel Sturm keeps the car in the mix, Müller-Madsen, I think, could be another one to watch in the second stint of the race. There it is. Number 22 Porsche. So that car is 11.3 seconds off the race lead, and Joel Sturm, who came from karts into the German GT4 Series last year, the 19-year-old, is hanging on in there. Look at this now for 3rd place. Beltoise under attack once again from Bailey Voisin. The McLaren twitching its way out of the chicane now down towards the approach to Saint-Baume. In a moment they'll go through L'École onto the Mistral, and the McLaren drops back down at the foot of the lap, so that brings Lundstrass a little bit closer. Bailey Voisin trying now to defend, and while he is defending, he won't be able to concentrate on attacking. Beltoise just up the road ahead. Side by side they run though, and in a straight line. That McLaren on this lap shows great speed, but can he go round the outside into the chicane? Bailey Voisin gives Beltoise racing room. He's got the inside line for the next corner. Beltoise uses all of the curb on the outside, goes off the road and back on again. Stays ahead of the McLaren. You could argue that he did gain an advantage by running off the road there, because he didn't have to check his pace, but equally Bailey Voisin is all over the back of him now as they head up towards Senior, so the McLaren does not give up. Lundstrass is on the attack as well. He couldn't make it stick, so 3rd, 4th, 5th having a great fight. 6th in the background is Gomar, 7th is Sturm, and again to the inside line looks Bailey Voisin. He was a long way back where they got onto the Mistral, but the pace of the McLaren in a straight line as it cut through the air, really impressive, and so he got onto the back of the Alpine, and look, Beltoise is off the road again there. Bailey Voisin has done the top speed of anybody on the run along the Mistral. It's interrupted, of course, for GT4 by that chicane, but even so, the car proving its pace. Now, where is it in relation to the leaders? 8.7 seconds off the race lead. Bailey Voisin losing pace now while he's a little bit stuck. He's having to defend from the Aston. He's having to fight the Alpine ahead of him. And the net result is that he's losing tenths to the 2 race leaders. So for that matter, of course, is Beltoise, because he's having to go defensive and take the longer, slower lines as the cars come over the line. There are the leaders. So it's Ibanez still in the lead ahead of Lemerey. It was ever thus, 4.4 seconds. And then here's the long, long queue for 3rd place as they come pouring over the line. Beltoise ahead of Bailey Voisin, ahead of Markus Lundstrass. And Joel Sturm in the Porsche, creeping onto the back of Nicolas Gomar as well. There's the AM lead battle then, the 2 Astons together. Lundstrass ahead of Gomar. Henrik Pedersen will take over number 18. And Henrik, the Danish driver, not as quick as Lundstrass, whereas Gomar will give way to Eric Hare. So again, you can expect those cars to run at a different pace when their co-drivers get on board. Nearly at the end of the first 20 minutes, as again, look, going down through L'École and Saint-Baume. 18 Aston closing onto the back of the McLaren as we saw a lap ago. Now, it's a big gap 3rd to 4th here, but as they run up towards the chicane, what can Bailey Voisin do on this lap? He gobbled up the real estate a lap ago. Look, he leaves the Aston Martin in his wake, closing on the Alpine. Is he going to get there in time to make a move? He thinks about it. Also, as much as he's trying to show the nose, he's also trying to force a mistake out of Beltoise, but he wasn't as close on this lap as he was last lap. Voisin out of the chicane then. We're working lap 9 here at Paul Ricard. It's race 3 within the GT4 European Series. At the rear of this queue, you can see as there Voisin pulls out and pulls back in again. The Chevrolet's on its toes, trying to gain ground against Paul Everard's fading Mercedes. That's dropped down the order a little bit since the start of the race. So Voisin all over the back of Beltoise. He's applied pressure here in the past and it's not quite worked. What can he do on this lap as they dive into Beausset? Lean on the car, tuck it into the clipping point at the second apex, if you like, of that long, long right, and now up through Vendor they go. That's the AM leading Aston Martin still. Number 18, Markus Lundstrass. But the race leader a long way up the road from this battle pack for 3rd place. Ibanez still leads from Stéphane Lemerey. 4.4 seconds the margin last time. The leading AM, Markus Lundstrass in the Hella Pagid Racing 1. There it is. Aston Martin comes through. up towards the timing line. The race leader's gone through. Stefan Lemre is second, and that gap is up to 4.7 seconds, as then the queue comes through for third with Beltoise, Voisin, Lundstrass, Gomar, Sturm, pretty much together. But then in 8th place now, behind them, is Rapinge, and that Chevrolet is getting better and better as the stint wears on then. So the V8 racing car, there it is, the Chevrolet Camaro, closing up onto the rear of that 3rd place battle. He's all over the curb, he's out wide. 9th behind him is Paul Everard. 10th is Cesar Gazzo, another of the Aston Martin drivers for AGS Events. But for 3rd place, nose to tail, but Voisin's car sideways as he dances it off the curbs. Out of the chicane, heading now down towards turn 3 over at Saint-Baume. Lecole is next, and then you're onto the Mistral straight. That's where Voisin seems to lose time. Look, he drops about 3 lengths, if not more. When he gets onto the straight, he's able to buy back the time, but the Alpine seems to have the advantage out of the chicane and down towards Saint-Baume. Again here, Voisin closes, he brings the gap down, looks to the inside, gets a face full of the Alpine, goes to the outside line. Can he drive around the outside into the first element, which is the inside for the second? They're both late on the brakes, and Beltoise will go back through on the inside line, the tighter line. Great fight between these two. Beltoise then hangs on a 3rd spot, 4th, Bailey Voisin behind, and they run now up towards seeing it once more. Lap 10 here, and we're not far off the pit window opening, only about 3 more minutes, so this lap and 1 more. As now Voisin goes for the inside at senior. This is his best chance yet. He's going to force the Alpine out wide and sits on the inside for the next corner. Beltoise the wrong side of the markers. He's on the outside line for Beausset, and he has to give way and lose that place to the McLaren. So Bailey Voisin has done it, and he's worked really, really hard for that. Up into 3rd place goes the double Monza winner. McLaren goes ahead of Alpine. The CMR Alpine then falls back into 4th place. Now, can Beltoise do anything about retaking 3rd, or is the McLaren going to get away and start to close on the top 2? That's what needs to happen before the pit stops. It ain't happening, because look, Beltoise right with the McLaren again. Up towards Tours now, towards the completion of lap 10 into Virage Dupont they will come, and Beltoise on the outside line goes through. That is a really good pass. Trouble is, he's going to get hung out to dry, is he? No, he's got the job done. Fantastic move round the outside, coming into Virage Dupont, and job done as they got to the apex. But now the McLaren fights back in a straight line. Beltoise has 3rd, Voisin goes one side, then the other. So he certainly, Bailey Voisin couldn't get away, he couldn't even keep the place. Beltoise back up into 3rd. That is circuit knowledge for you. He knew exactly how to position the car, and he goes through, he goes out wide here as well. So as the 2 race leaders get away, this pair now 11 seconds, nearly 12 seconds back from the top spot. And that time is going to be hard to make up. So it's a great fight to watch, but all the drivers really frustrated, knowing that they could be quicker if they didn't have to be involved in a battle. Again, look there, the McLaren loses chunks of time. The queue forms behind Voisin, and Lundstrass all over him like a rash as they hit the Mistral straight now. Beltoise gets away once more. The Alpine able to work really well through the tight, twisty section at the bottom of the lap. And is this the opportunity now for Voisin to close back up into the chicane? He needs, in a sense, to be close here and then think about making the move the other side of the chicane. Beltoise again defends. Voisin shows intent on the outside line. But Vincent Beltoise comes through the chicane, then the little Alpine dancing over the curb. Voisin needs to be on the power and needs to try again to make the move in this second half of the Mistral straight. Conscious that he's got Lundstrass, Gomar, then Sturm and Rapinge all queued up behind as well. So the Alpine turns through, and they're into the pit lane early, so it's not a scheduled stop. Number 90, the Trivelato Racing Mercedes, that is Jody Vullo. It'll be Francesco Guerra to take over the car, but not yet, because we are still 30 seconds away from the window opening. Beltoise again rattles up on the curb. He's got that car by the scruff of the neck, and he's not leaving anything on the table as he tries desperately to get away from Bailey Voisin, who oh so briefly was 3rd, and he's now under attack. Look from Marcus Lundstrass. So rather than on the charge up the order, Bailey Voisin suddenly has to think about defending as they come to Virage Dupont, and again look to the outside line. An attack is made. Lundstrass couldn't do a Beltoise and go through there, but Beltoise has escaped as now the window is open. So if you're outside the top 10, lower down than that, you could bail early, get your co-driver in. Leaders go through, waiting to see if anybody does pit at the end of the lap, and the answer is no, not yet. So the leaders go through, and 11 laps are done, The leading margin is 4.8 seconds as the Audi fight goes on there. Thomas Odier ahead of Christophe Amont. Amont in the yellow Audi is an Am, and Odier is in the Pro-Am battle, and in fact has taken over the lead of Pro-Am because 42, Fabien Michel's Audi, has fallen a long way back as the stint has gone on. He started 5th and he's running 15th, Fabien Michel, leaving Greg Gilbert with a lot of work to do. So they're coming back into shot. The yellow Audi leading the pink Audi, I should say, leading the Pro-Am class, Thomas Odier. And they put a lap on the Mercedes of Foubert. So into the chicane, no chance on this lap for Voisin to make an attack because he's too far away from the rear end of the little Alpine. And number 2, Jean-Ludovic Foubert, needs to get out of the way because at the moment he's found himself in the middle of this long line of cars that takes you down to 10th placed César Gazot. Right, the window is open. In has come 87, Jean-Luc Bobelic to give way to Jim Pla. Piotr Hodson is in to give way to his son Anthony Hodson. You might well expect some out of this leading group to dive in at the end of the next lap as well. There's 22, Joel Sturm, on the back of Nicolas Gomard, who is still the second of the AMs. Marcus Lundstrass has done a really good stint, starting 6th and hanging on to the class lead. So there to the inside of the traffic goes Paul Everard in the ACA ASP Mercedes. Do we have any of this leading gaggle for the pit lane? Not Ibanez, the leader, not Lemeray, because there he is in 2nd place. If you see a car suddenly go wide, that's pit in. Marcus Lundstrass wrestles the car through. In has come Joel Sturm. It looked like Yot Raponge was coming in as well. So 22 Porsche, and I think also Bailey Voisin has bailed early. Yes, he has. So Bailey Voisin into the pit lane. There is the McLaren heading down towards the United Autosports team. You've got in the background Joel Sturm in, Yot Raponge in, Ruben Del Sart, another graduate of the UK Ginetta Junior scene. He is in, and Fabien Michel in to give way to Greg Gilbert. Moller Madsen takes over 22, and at the pit out end of the pit lane are the United Autosports, formerly HHC engineers, Charlie Kemp and his merry men, to oversee number 23 and indeed 32's pit stops. The second of the United Autosports McLarens is a long way back relative to 23. Gus Bowers has also, in fact, has come into the pit lane in that car. Nikolai Moller-Madsen then gets on board 22. Very fiery driver, well worth watching, as Uki Banyet then hangs on to the lead of the race for now. Javier Lloveras will take over. And on this lap, Ibanez has just done an absolute best in the first sector. There's an incident being investigated at the start of the race, just quickly to mention, which is between Wilfried Casalbon and also Piotr Hodson, which would account for why Casalbon pitted at the end of the opening lap and didn't go much further. Right, pit lane getting busy now, so the order is going to shuffle as a consequence. A pit stop is 103 seconds, just to make the point. It's done to a time. Pit in line to pit out. You don't refuel, you just do the driver change. And there, Moller-Madsen's on his way down the pit lane to rejoin the race. So is Timon Nabours, and staying ahead is number 23 McLaren then. So Charlie Fagg, who was a real star at Monza, of course, accelerates, keeping track position over the Porsche, although the gap between them has come right down, hasn't it? Bearing in mind there were quite a few cars between them before the pit stop. Now then, you've got the Porsche much, much closer to the back of the McLaren. So it was 103.6 seconds for number 23. What about the pit stop for 22, the Porsche? Joel Sturm. I would say that was slightly under, 102.7 seconds for the Porsche. The pit stop is 103, and 102.7 would suggest that there's going to be an alarm sounded about number 22's pit stop, but we'll keep an eye to the timing screen. So 1 minute 43 it must be. So there on track is Charlie Fagg, and trying to get away from Nikolai Moller-Madsen in the Porsche behind him. Timon Nabours is next. More and more stops cycling through. Stéphane Lemeray is in, incidentally, to give the second place car now to his co-driver, which is Antoine Potty, former Carter, a Formula 4 racer. And look, Charlie Fagg is on the money on his outlap because he's stretching the margin over there, Nikolai Müller-Madsen. That is the car that was second when it came in. Potty takes over, and it means that Vincent Beltoise runs second on the road at the moment. Alpine gaining a place. And now the clock ticks on down. The team has to time it right to release the car, factor in the drive time so that it breaks the pit beam at the exit just after the regulation 1 minute 43 seconds. So does that bring 23 McLaren any closer to the mix at the end of the stop? Doesn't look like it, does it? As they're down the pit road now goes them number 8, Antoine Potty. We know he's a quick driver. Ideally, 23 McLaren could do with a safety car to bring it back into the equation. So there is the Toyota, the Supra back on track. And Antoine Potty blasts away. There in the background, look, is Charlie Fagg. McLaren goes through, still being chased by Nikolai Müller-Madsen, then Timon Nabours in the Chevrolet, who rather cheekily pulls out to the inside, has a think about going through, but he couldn't do it there. Out of turn 2 they come. Porsche on the giddy limit as it snakes its way down over the curb towards the chicane now. Nabours right up behind. So the former Dutch Supercar Challenge racer onto the back of the Cayman 718 as they drop down to the chicane on this lap 14, and the leader is in. So the race leader into the pit lane, Luc Ibanez, to give the car over to Javier Lloveras now. The Toyota, 1 minute and 43 to the 10th as it left the pit lane. So perfectly timed for number 8. There is 15 then, down the pit road. And the NM racing team receives the car. And in will hop Javier Lloveras. There he is. Saunters round the side of it. Got a good job done by Luc Ibanez. Pole position, dominates his stint. Job well done. As here, Nikolai Müller-Madsen is being rather distracted in his chase of Charlie Fagg by Timon Nabours, number 17 there in the Chevrolet. The V8 Racing entered Camaro right on the back of the Cayman, the 718 Club Sport, as they run up towards Senior now. At the other end of the Mistral straight, to the outside line goes the Chevrolet, but the Porsche able to defend. And a driving standards flag being given to Thomas Odier for track limit abuse, as you see this battle come now into Beausset. Out wide goes Müller-Madsen, up the inside line goes Timon Nabours, and the door was left open for him, a yawning gap, and no second invitation needed. Through goes Nabours. Müller-Madsen a bit cross with himself for making that small error to leave the door open. He instantly fights back, but Nabours is having none of it. Chevrolet fends off Porsche then as they come up now towards Tours. Away goes Javier Lloveras, and he should be good to hang on to that race lead, as in the background there is Antoine Potty. So yes, Mercedes stays ahead of Toyota. We'll see next time what the gap is going to be between them. We should for the moment have Vincent Beltoise as the on-the-road leader. There going through is Charlie Fagg. Now yet to pit also are Lundstrass, Gomar and Everard. So with another 6 minutes or so of the window, the order a little bit distorted. And of course the other factor of this is that in some cases you've made your pit stop and then get caught up with traffic as other people rejoin ahead of you. And in other cases, if you've yet to make your stop, your pre-pit stop lap times are compromised, again because of traffic. So quite a lot can wash out during this 10-minute window. So it is currently the Alpine that leads the way then of Beltoise, but he's also just come down the pit lane. So is Lundstrass. There they are. So this is the next wave of pit stops, and Vincent Beltoise has done a really impressive job in the Alpine. In he comes then to give over now to Boris Cabirou. The car run by CMR, Classic Modern Racing, as is the Toyota Supra. And Charlie Bourachot's team busy yesterday, although without the result they wanted with the Seoul Bentley in the GT3 race that we had here. So it's been a really, really long, busy weekend for one of the top French teams. So they do the driver change, check that all is well. Quick look at the tyre pressures if required. There's very little you can do in the pit stops, as there, fresh into the car now, Javier Lloveras tries to get on with the job. Thread his way through the traffic, rattles out wide over the curb as he comes out of Beausset, up now towards Bendor. 25 minutes of the race to go. And we understand that number 90 is slow out on track. That is the Jody Vullo, Francesco Guerra Mercedes. We saw it a while ago in the pit lane. It came in before the window opened. The pit window is now closed, and number 90 crawls on. Now there are cars still coming into the pit. As long as you're in before the window is closed, that's okay. You don't have to be out. So, order shuffles, and there is 23, which is the now Charlie Fagg-driven McLaren heading up towards the line. So at the end of this lap, the order will start to take a little bit more shape, with Lloveras ahead of Antoine Potti, and the gap between them is only 2.9 seconds, so it's going to be tight, this. And there, look, the Alpine stays ahead of the McLaren. It was a battle between them in the first stint, and now, look, Charlie Fagg has got to try to get past Loris Cabirou as quickly as he possibly can. Charlie Fagg knows what the track of the car is like. Cabirou is straight into the Alpine, and he's got to deliver. So down towards the chicane they go. 23, Charlie Fagg right on the back of the Alpine. Really good first stint, though, done in that car by Bailey Voisin, and he's in the pit lane with Gemma Scott.
Bailey, you look to be absolutely having a ball out there today. A fantastic performance. Something I imagine you really enjoyed.
Yeah, it was great, to be honest. It was nice to be battling for the podium. After pretty disappointing qualifying on my part yesterday, I think it was nice to get through the field quite quickly and just be up there towards the sharp end. So yeah, no, it was great racing and a couple of nice overtakes. So yeah, brilliant.
Certainly the pace between the McLaren and the Alpine seems to be fairly well matched.
Yeah, obviously some sectors we're stronger, some sectors they're stronger. It makes for good racing. Yeah, so yeah, the BOP is working.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries.
BOP is working almost sounds like a rather frustrated, we can't get past, and that's the reason. But Bailey Voisin quite validly does make the point that to equate these cars, the BOP does work very, very well indeed, and they've been trading places in stint 1. They're together in stint 2, as now Charlie Fagg, using all of the curb through Beausset, a little bit more experienced of the car and of international circuits than is Bailey Voisin, runner-up to Tom Laban in the Ginetta Junior Championship last year. Here they come, they're up now through the approach to Bendor, and Loris Cabirou hangs onto the place then in the Alpine. Cabirou, another Carter turned Formula 4 racer, and now, like so many, thinking that GT racing is the future, coming into the GT4 class this year. Charlie Fagg right on his tail then. Charlie, another graduate of the Ginetta Junior scene in the UK. He's a member of the British Racing Drivers Club's Rising Stars programme to nurture young British talent. And over the timing line, there go the leaders, and the gap is down 1.7 seconds. Potti closing on Lloveras. And then look back, third, a long way back, but third, there's the fight between Cabirou and Charlie Fagg, who goes to the inside line under braking for turn 1, and he's gone through. Good, bold pass, that by Charlie Fagg. To the outside line goes Cabirou. Now tries to get the switch back for the inside as they drop down towards the chicane, but the McLaren has done it. It'll be interesting on this lap, now that he's ahead, to see whether Charlie Fagg struggles out of the chicane down towards Saint-Baume, as Bailey Voisin was doing in his stint, because it was this next couple of corners where the McLaren really seemed to be struggling for pace. Look, the Alpine closes up under braking. Does the McLaren get away? And have a look who's fifth behind them. Timon Nabours in the Chevrolet Camaro is not that far adrift either, so he could be one to watch. Third place fight goes onto the Mistral. And there, up towards the chicane, goes third, fourth, fifth. Can the Alpine do anything under braking? No, because the McLaren has made its brake in a straight line. There's the Chevrolet that started on the 5th row, and Timon Nabours now looking for 4th against Loris Cabirou. So the real grunt and go Chevrolet now giving the, you almost think, under horsepower Alpine a hard time, but the Alpine again under the BOP does work well. Now we've got 20 minutes, just under 21 minutes to go, and this is the lead fight. 1.7 seconds between Mercedes and Toyota. CMR has come so close to outright honours with the Supra. There, at the end of the pit straight, is number 45, Akhil Rabindra, the Indian driver, has come to a halt with a rather smoky Aston Martin, another of the AGS events cars. He's taken it over from Hugo Condé, and that, as you see, has ground to a halt off the circuit, but on the way down to the turn 1. It's also near a vehicle access gate, so one would hope we didn't need to interrupt the race to retrieve that. It can sit there. Now we're going to get a 5-second penalty added at the end of the race for car number 77. That is the Eric Clement Romain Iannetta car. Not told why a 5-second penalty is being added, but a 5-second penalty is being added. Might be for track limits, but we'll try to double check as this final 20 minutes continues. So Lloveras to Potti, 1.4 seconds, gap down again. So we have the Mercedes leading the Toyota, and then behind Charlie Fagg, who was 11.6 seconds back now. Charlie Fagg's last lap was a 2:15, but he did have to get past the Alpine, and Loris Cabirou in his excitement has knocked the wipers on. Now that he's got clear, can Charlie Fagg start to chip away at that lead gap? First sector of the lap, Charlie Fagg is quicker than Potti, slightly, but not as quick as the leader. Nabours to the outside of the Alpine, can't quite get up alongside into the first element of the chicane. If he stays nice and tight, he might be able to make his move on the run up towards the Mistral, up towards Senior, the second part of the straight. There he is. But actually, through the twiddly bits, again, the Alpine gains a couple of lengths back over the Chevrolet. Really frustrating situation, this, for drivers where the BOP goes against them in a way, but Nabours hustles on now into the right-hander. And we have then the confirmation that the penalty for 77, the Eric Clement Romain Iannetta Audi, was track limits. As up the inside for fourth place goes Timon Nabours, but he goes out wide, rattles over the curb. Cabirou fights back in the Alpine, but Nabours hangs on to the place. The Alpine crawling all over the back of him. Up towards the completion of the lap. And there you have the 23 McLaren, Charlie Fagg, heading up toward the line. The leaders have gone through with 1.4 seconds between them. And is Charlie Fagg lapping any quicker? Podium would be a good result from 15th on the grid, but can he get onto the back of the race leaders? The gap is 12 seconds, 12.4 seconds a third. The last lap was a 2:15. No, Charlie Fagg actually losing time against the top two. Down through turn one goes there the 89 Aston, Eric Hare, who is still ahead in the AM competition. Got a new Pro-Am leader as well, perhaps not surprisingly. Greg Gilbert is up into the lead of the class, 9th overall. That's the leading AM then, Eric Hare. And that is your Pro-Am leader then. So Greg Gilbert, as I say, he's got himself into the lead of the class. Much star driver in French GT racing is Greg Gilbert. And as you anticipate, in the Santaloc Audi, moving his way into the lead of the class. So he's now 9th overall and 2nd in Pro-Am currently. Number 5, Pierre Coroy, is taken over from Thomas Odier in the pink and white Audi that's run by Team Speedcar. The leading AMs, still Nicolas Gomard, but now Eric Hare behind the wheel of the car. But there for Pro-Am, Greg Gilbert up towards the chicane. Now, how much further up the order can he get? It's the class win that he needs. There is the opposition as number 5 dives through on the inside. So through on the inside line goes Pierre Coroy. And Eric Hare there, the leading AM, under attack because he's got number 4 Audi now breathing down his neck. That is Benjamin Lariche at the wheel, the Silver Cup Audi. So Eric Hare doesn't want to give away place after place, but equally needs to work out which battles are worth fighting. So there you've got then the race battle for Pro-Am, AM and Silver all happening all at once with cars from different classes. Up front, the lead gap is down again. It's 1 second now. And with 15 minutes to go, there they are. It's looking a little bit more optimistic, this, isn't it, for the Toyota in second place. Javier Lloveras, strangely, losing some of the time that Luc Ibanez had gained early on. Lloveras, runner-up in the Silver Cup last year. He's raced in the Formula Renault Euro Cup. He's raced in Formula 4, he's raced in GT4 categories as well. He was a winner here last year even, but right now he's on borrowed time, and there in strife is Henrik Pedersen, who's off the road in number 18 Aston Martin, the former Legends racer, dropping places. Now let's have a look. It's Pedersen at the head of the queue. Does he get clobbered by somebody? Let's see. Porsche to the inside, Mercedes to the out, and yes, that was a hard-charging Dennis Fetzer, I think it was, in number 20 Porsche, who rather dive-bombed him on the inside line. So number 20 Porsche elbows out, Dennis Fetzer through, but that rather did for Henrik Pedersen. Leaders then, covered by a second. Nikolai Moller-Madsen's Porsche goes through. There is 20 then, which is Fetzer, still trying to haul the car up the order. But on lap 20, 14 minutes still on the clock, Javier Lloveras trying now to stretch the margin. And it's almost like he's woken up, because suddenly he's done an absolute best in the first sector. So whether that's him getting the message or the team shouting down his ear, either way, he has had to respond and try to break away from the Toyota, which in turn then is 4/10ths quicker in the second sector. So Luc Ibanez did the fastest lap of the race in the first stint, but Lloveras might get mugged here before the end. He's going to have to make that car wide, that's for sure. So through turns 15. And there is the number 8 Toyota up towards the line. So the two leading cars go through. So the gap was a second last time, 8/10ths this time. Antoine Potti has time on his side to find a way through. He's creeping up onto the back of the leading car. It is still Charlie Fagg in third place, but Fagg is falling away now from the two leaders. So try as he might, I think a podium is going to be as good as it gets. He's still a very good result from 15th on the grid, but I think third place is going to be where the McLaren finishes. Tom Canning's Aston goes through. There's number 70 Jamie Caroline's Mercedes. So it's a bit like British GT4 all over again, this, isn't it? As to the inside line, Tom Canning tries to get through the traffic, and he does so. Gets up past Eric Hare, so that puts Canning now 12. Jamie Caroline has a go as well. Eric Hare is falling down the order overall. He's still leading the AM class, but Michel Blanchemin is not that far behind in the number 69 Audi. So with 12 minutes on the clock, Eric Hare can ill afford to give away too many places. He's keeping out of the way of the quicker cars, yes, but it's hanging on to his class lead that's the real priority here. So Tom Canning, GT4 champion, going back a few seasons, keeping Jamie Caroline at bay in this fight. And there also in strife again, Henrik Pedersen. We've seen him off the road once, he's off the road again. So the Danish driver, sadly, rather undoing the good work from Marcus Lundstras, heading for the pits as the lead is about to change. Is it? No, that, forgive me, is the Toyota of now Anthony Hodgson battling with a Mercedes of 61 further down the order. So that's now Benjamin Richard 61, but it won't be long, I think, before we do have a move like that for the race lead. 911 gets in the mix as well, which is Spavoni in the Porsche. I mentioned earlier that the Nikolai Moller-Madsen Joel Sturm Porsche was a little bit under the regulation stop time. The race control team happy to let that go because you can have a joker pit stop. Now here is the first and second duel. It's not quite the dive that we saw in the traffic a lap ago, but as they come now over the timing line, Antoine Potti is how far back? It was 7/10ths last time, 7/10ths this time. So it's plateauing a little bit, the gap between the two of them. So Mercedes versus Toyota. Here's one we almost prepared earlier, but the Toyota not quite as towy as it was in the case of Anthony Hodgson a lap ago when we looked at the traffic. A flash of the lights, little good will that do you, but Antoine Potti trying everything now to unsettle Javier Lloveras. Doesn't matter whether he wins by 1,000th or by a minute, as long as he wins, but he rattles over the curb there, and Javier Lloveras has got to try and be error-free now. The pressure just starting to tell, maybe. The lights won't get him out of the way, but it might just distract him, and you saw the way that the car looked a bit more untidy out of the chicane and down towards Saint-Baume. Onto the Mistral then comes the Mercedes with Lloveras trying to break clear, and 0.006 of a second the margin in the first sector it had come down by. So there, again, closing under braking, more vigorous flashing of the lights from Antoine Potti. trying to distract Ibanez's car, now in the hands of Lloveras as they come out of the chicane onto the Mistral again. The second part of it past the SRO building. The race centre that lives, of course, here at Paul Ricard houses many a customer car, and then into the right-hander at Senior they fly. Up the curb goes Potti. It now looks like when, rather than if, he takes over the race lead, doesn't it? So through they turn, out of Beausset. And right now you can see the pressure that Lloveras is under. Nose to tail they run, and now on towards the right-hander of Village. So where does the Toyota make its move? Is it going to be on straight line speed, or is it going to be under braking? To the timing line they come. There's part of the answer. It wasn't under braking, wasn't at the Virage du Pont, and here in a straight line the Mercedes just extends the margin ever so slightly. So it's half a second at the end of the lap, but again the Toyota seems to be good under braking. Still a bit strange as to why Lloveras is giving away the pace that Ibanez had, but through they turn. Now we've got 8.5 minutes to go. A lap is over 2 minutes. It's going to be about 4 maximum that we can squeeze out of the race now, if that. Down towards the sequence of corners at the chicane here. The right, the left, the right. Then on towards Saint-Baume, which is at the end of this little short straight, coming up now. These two well clear of Charlie Fagg, who's still going to have a good third place. Fagg in turn is being caught by Timon Nabours in the Chevrolet. And so the Toyota, which did claim an outright win at Spa last year, could be on for another one here, as the team operating it, CMR, sees the car closing onto the NM Racing Team Mercedes. You know one thing about the Supra, the headlights work, because still busy flashing them on the Mistral straight is Antoine Potti. 7 3/4 on the clock now as they come into the chicane. A tighter line from Potti, but does the car squirm out wide a little bit and compromise the run onto the second part of the Mistral? Not close enough to attack then as they come up now towards the right at Senior this time. Further back, still Charlie Fagg for third time, and Nabours runs fourth. Fifth is Loris Cabiro, falling away a little bit in the Alpine. There is 88 now, sixth of Timothée Bourain. This is the Fagg versus Nabours situation for third place. 7 minutes to go. Can Timon Nabours get himself close enough to attack the McLaren before the very end? It's going to be close, that's for sure. Here, the leaders through the traffic. Out of Bendor, now on towards Village, they turn. And if you look at the gap that they have built, no chance that they're going to be caught unless they end up coming into contact with one another and really being badly delayed. Now 6 3/4 minutes as they come into the Virage du Pont. Let's try and work out whether it is going to be 3 more laps as they come over the line now. Ideally for Lloveras it would be 2, because he's really feeling the pressure. He's being able to soak it up for the moment, but it's not a pleasant situation to be in. As there, number 5 Audi through on the inside. That is Benjamin Lariche. Number 70, Jamie Caroline, hustles on behind as well. So Caroline's got ahead of Tom Canning now, the 2 British drivers trading places. The leaders 4 tenths between them, 6 minutes on the clock. There's Jamie Caroline now. 12th he runs up towards the Virage du Pont. Next target is going to be Courroy. Benjamin Lariche making progress in the sister car as there Dean McDonald, number 32 Monza pole sitter, comes out of the Virage du Pont. So the leaders go by onto lap 24 into the final 6 minutes of the race. Race 2 coming up at the end of the day here at just after 3:30 local time. And you see the fight for third place. Fagg versus Nabours once more. Charlie Fagg onto the power as he comes onto the Mistral straight. Timon Nabours with that Chevrolet stretching its legs now on the Mistral. He would love this to be the entire straight, not broken by the chicane, because that would give him an even better chance. And he's another serial headlight flasher to try to distract Fagg ahead of him. Lloveras then onto the second element of the Mistral. Jamie Caroline gets another place away, so he's 11th now there in the Mercedes, just nipped up past Pierre Courroy. So Jamie Caroline going better here than he did at Monza when he ploughed into the traffic with a faulty radio, missed the call for the full course yellow. People slowed ahead and he didn't, and I think it was the 15 Mercedes, in fact, that he cannoned into the back of in that Monza race. But here Jamie showing his racecraft and doing a good job, as up front Lloveras still hangs on to the advantage, but it's a really modest one, as way out wide over the curb there and a bit sideways goes Antoine Potti. You see the commitment that's being put in, and you also see another of the great things about GT4, that even though they've got a bit of aero, there's nowhere near as much as you see on a GT3 car, so the cars do move around a lot more, and they're really exciting to watch. A slower speed, yes, but there's a bit more movement within them. Right, 4.5 minutes less than, and it is 2 minutes 15 for a lap, so 2 more as they come over the line now. 2 more laps to run. Through goes Lloveras, through goes Potti, and 4 tenths is up to 9 tenths on that lap, partly because of Antoine making that little mistake. Wait back for third, and it's a long wait before you see Charlie Fagg come towards us in the McLaren there. Fourth still is Timon Nabours in the Chevrolet, and fifth is the Alpine, still going strongly. Loris Cabirou with, in 6th place, Timothy Bure, number 88 Mercedes. 7th is 22 Porsche, Nicolai Müller-Madsen. 8th, another of the Astons, which is the 27 car of now Constantin Lachenauer. 8th he is. 9th is Greg Gilbert, who is the leading Pro-Am, and 10th, number 4 Audi, the pink, first of the 2 pink ones of Benjamin Lariche. So there Charlie Fagg comes now out of the chicane. Just up ahead, about to be lapped, is the number 2 Mercedes, now Hugo Chevalier at the wheel of the car, taking over from Jean-Ludovic Foubert. Out wide goes Chevalier to get out of the way of the traffic. Hugo Chevalier, another experienced driver, third in the French Carrera Cup a couple of 3 years ago. There's Fagg versus Nabour still for third place, and a couple of cars under investigation for cutting a chicane with an advantage. One of them being 88, which is the Everard Bure Mercedes, significant because it's 6th, and another one is number 22, which is the Sturm Müller-Madsen Porsche, significant because it is 7th. So the cars 6th and 7th are being looked at for possibly gaining an advantage by being off the circuit. So time for one more lap at the end of this, as there Charlie Fagg heads up towards the line. Lloveras is still there, still hanging on to the lead. So despite the fact that Antoine Potti has had really the best part of 20 minutes, if not more, afforded to him to get himself up and past, he's chipped away, but he's never quite got close enough to make a real bid for race honours, which in part is a surprise, because you would have anticipated, given how well the car had been going, that he'd have been able to have a go. Here he comes then now, up towards the timing line, up to the start of the last lap, because there is less than a lap time left in the race. Through they go. And has Lloveras done enough? 9 tenths last time, he's 8 tenths this time. But the fact that Potti hasn't been able to make a proper bid suggests that he's going to struggle on the last lap. He's good under braking though, we've seen that before. He brings that gap down again. Coming through next, Charlie Fagg, still hanging on to third place. 4th behind him is Timon Nabours. Timon looks, time and time again, but still can't find a way through. So there you have the leading cars. Mercedes ahead of Toyota. They were 1 and 2 on the grid. They've been 1 and 2 throughout the race, but that doesn't tell you the whole story of what's been a really interesting fight between them, and indeed a really interesting race all round, especially when you factor in the pace of Bailey Voisin and Charlie Fagg hanging on just to third place, but that's not a guarantee. Timon Nabours right up with them then here as they drop down out of the chicane. This is where the McLaren seems at its weakest. The Chevrolet is strong, but can't find a way past Charlie Fagg, who might just be able to sprint clear when they hit the Mistral straight once again, but even that is a big ask. Through they come together then, onto the Mistral for the last time, into the last minute of the race now. Through they come up towards the chicane. Timon Nabours looks to the inside line there. No opportunity through unless Charlie Fagg makes a mistake and leaves the door open, and that's looking unlikely. Nabours in the monstrous Chevrolet, almost wishing he could use that front, the big front of the car like a snowplow and shovel him out of the way, but on his head be it. 15 then, the leading car, the Mercedes, Javier Lloveras for the last time into Beausset. Checkered flag being made ready. It's going to be close between the two, but despite all the pressure, fair play to Javier Lloveras. He soaked it up, not put a wheel wrong, and Antoine Potti has just not been able to make a move. He's never really got close enough to be able to challenge into the approach to Village they come. And so with 7 seconds on the clock, towards the Virage du Pont, towards the checkered flag will come Javier Lloveras at the wheel of the Mercedes, started by Luc Ibanez then. So the checkered flag is ready. It's going to be a win for the Silver Cup Mercedes then, up towards the timing line. Comes Javier Lloveras. He wins with Luc Ibanez. A great drive in the Mercedes to win race 3 in the GT4 European Series. Second across the line, Antoine Potti and Stéphane Lemeray. And third is going to be a drag race to the line, look, because it is only just Charlie Fagg ahead of Timon Nabours. Can the McLaren defend on the run to the line? It's a long, long way down the pit straight. Fagg's got to defend. The Chevrolet's got the grunt, but not in time. So it is third for Charlie Fagg and Bailey Voisin. And coming through for fourth place, Timon Nabours and Joop Raponge. Fifth will go the way of the Alpine in the background there, Loris Cabirou and Vincent Beltoise after his very good first stint. Sixth, Timothy Bure and Paul Everard, provisionally, because that's being looked at. Seventh, Joel Sturm and Nikolai Müller-Madsen, provisionally. That's another one being looked at for maybe gaining an advantage off the track. Eighth is the car of Constantin Lachenauer. And then ninth, Greg Gilbert to win with Fabien Michel in Pro-Am. Benjamin Lariche 10th, Jamie Caroline 11th, Tom Canning 12th, Pierre Courroy 13th, and 14th, Eric Hare wins the AM contest along with Nicolas Gomard. But despite all the pressure, it is a win for number 15 then. Javier Lloveras comes through to score honours in the Mercedes ahead of Antoine Potti, and of course they are the top two also within the Silver Cup. So very, very good drive by Lloveras, despite the pressure. He may not have had the pace that his co-driver had, but he was there when it counted, managed to stay ahead and not make a mistake, depriving Antoine Potti of any realistic chance of finding a way through. So Mercedes, Audi, Aston Martin winning the 3 classes. So the Silver Cup, a win for Lloveras and Ibanez, from Potti and Lemeray, Fagg and Voisin taking third. Pro-Am, Greg Gilbert and Fabien Michel the winners. Second in Pro-Am, Pierre Courroy and Thomas Audier. And then the third Pro-Am car, we didn't see it, but Max Busnelli and Ivan Jacoma, who took a Pro-Am win at Monza. The AMS, 89 was the winning car of Eric Hare and of Nicolas Gomard. Second of the AMS was number 69, Michel Blanchemin and Christophe Amon. And then third, the BMW, Max Trasoldi and Paolo Meloni, coming through for third place. So look at the provisional results of the race. The win on the road for the Mercedes of the NM Racing team. Javier Lloveras and Luc Ibanez taking the win from Stéphane Lemeray and Antoine Potti, Bailey Voisin and Charlie Fagg third, Joop Raponge and Timon Nabours fourth, ahead of Vincent Beltoise and Loris Cabirou. Sixth, Paul Everard and Timothy Bure under investigation as the car. Seventh is also Joel Sturm and Nikolai Müller-Madsen. Then César Gazot and Constantin Lachenauer from Greg Gilbert, Fabien Michel. The top 10 rounded out by Benjamin Lariche and Robert Consani. Eric Hare and Nicolas Gomard, the winners of the AM competition. And out of 41 starters, we had a few that retired early on and a few that were rather badly delayed. In fact, another one that I think retired near the end was the number 32 McLaren of Dean McDonald, but we did lose quite a few towards the end of the race. Yes, Gus Bowers, Dean McDonald didn't get to the end, so a retirement, curiously, late race. We lost also the Sebastian Bode Mercedes. We'd lost Akil Rabindra's Aston Martin, as we saw rather smokily on the pit straight. So there into Parc Fermé come the drivers with a really happy Luc Ibanez, who must have been getting a bit concerned at times in that second stint, thinking he's going to lose my lead that I worked so hard to keep. But it is a win for the two of them. They came into the championship a few years ago with a Ginetta and moved on from that last year to the Mercedes, and it's been a really good decision. Wins have come, and Lloveras taking the runner-up award in the Silver Cup last year. Team delighted. And last year there was one round where they were split apart because Luc Ibanez wasn't able to travel to do the event, but the band is back together, and successfully so for this season. So for the teams, a pretty busy time now, because one or two cars need some work doing before we get to the second race of the day. the Paul Ricard circuit, playing host to not only the GT4 European Series, but also Lamborghini Super Trofeo, TCR Europe, and the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine today. So it's another busy day of racing at the French circuit here. Very happy Greg Gilbert and Fabien Michel. And in the background, Eric Hare arrived for AGS events with the Aston Martin. Right, it will be no doubt a very happy brace of Spanish drivers, Javier Lloveras and Ibanez, who win the first race for GT4 European Series this weekend, and they are with Gemma.
Boys, we can see the smiles underneath the masks. A fantastic performance. We can come to you first, and obviously pulling out from that start, a great lead.
Yeah, we start P1, and the first corners took so tricky, but we found the 1 second, 2 second gap, and I can't improve, and 4 seconds, and it's more comfortable and safe tire for Xavi. And well, the second stint he did a really good job. So difficult because Toyota is too fast, but he did a really good job.
Xavi, a little bit of pressure there towards the end, but you held your own.
Yeah, we had a big gap before my stint, but we wanted to do a safe pit stop. We didn't want to lose and have a drive-through or something like this. So that was it. And then with the lapped cars, it was so crazy. I lost like 3 seconds. We lost all the margin that he won. But yeah, had a good pace, even though the Toyota was so fast, especially on the straights. But yeah, I managed to keep the front position.
Yeah. Absolutely, you did it, boys. Well done.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So the traffic playing a part in all of that, but a really good drive by both Javier Lloveras and certainly Ibanez in that first stint to build the gap over the Toyota, and the NM Racing Team Mercedes coming home victorious. Excellent job done by the team. So 2 McLaren wins at Monza and a Mercedes win here at Paul Ricard. Is it going to be a double for Mercedes or a different brand in the second race? Well, we'll find out round about 4:30 when we get to the end of the second race of the weekend. You see the pressure that was being applied to the Mercedes, the car bouncing over the curb. It had that ragged lap, didn't it, where after a bit of headlight flashing, Antoine Potti did start to look a little bit more serious about finding his way through into the lead, but never quite got there. So the podiums are being made ready, the 3 classes, and let's have a look at the best bits of that race. One by the Mercedes that bolted into the lead, but didn't actually lead quite all the way, because there was one corner, here it was, where the Toyota just got its nose in front. Stéphane Lemeray on the outside line going through, squeezing around the outside, running off the road, hitting the curb, and being way up onto 2 wheels. Drama early on for the number 26. Porsche, it got as far as the pit lane, but Alexander Hartwig, a retirement as the field battled its way up towards senior. Drama between these 2 Mercedes as well. Jean-Ludovic Foubert being forced out wide by Mauro Ricci. They carried on, but it wasn't a very convivial battle between the pair of them. Now, Bailey Voisin was really on his toes in the first stint, battling with Vincent Beltoise. McLaren on the tail of the Alpine couldn't quite find a way through, but eventually did have a proper lunge on the inside going through senior and picked up the position. He would hand the car over to Charlie Fagg. Loris Cabirou would take over the Alpine, and they would be 3rd and 5th at the end of the race. So Beltoise went back round the outside of Voisin, and Bailey had to do it all over again in one of the best battles of the race. As the pit window opened, the stops cycled through, and Charlie Fagg would take over number 23, guiding that car to the podium come the end of the race. So we have the second part of the race, giving plenty of drama, including Timon Nabors in the Chevrolet ahead of the Alpine, going then after Charlie Fagg, and also Henrik Pedersen in the number 18 Aston was being roughed up by the traffic. At the end, though, it was a win for Luc Ibanez and Javier Lloveras, with the Toyota coming home second of Antoine Potti and Stéphane Lemeray, and Bailey Voisin and Charlie Fagg in 3rd. Right, let's get to the podium. So the drivers now being called forward, ready for the first podium ceremony of the 3. As I say, we have the 3 classes, and in a moment, the silver drivers should be called forward. So very few takers for the podium. They're stepping forward now are our third place drivers. So Charlie Fagg and Bailey Voisin collect their trophies, make their way onto the appropriate step. A little bit lower than they stood at Monza, but a podium result nonetheless for the two British drivers in the McLaren. Second place drivers step forward now, Antoine Potti and Stéphane Lemeray. The Toyota crew, the very experienced Belgian driver Stéphane Lemeray. Barely a season has he missed for, it feels like, about 3 decades. And their young gun Antoine Potti with him. And for the top step of the podium, the race winners then, Xavier Lloveras and Luc Ibanez step forward to collect their trophies. And then the NM Racing Team drivers, very happy indeed, encouraging the team to join in the cheers, go for the top step of the podium. Great job done. So the NM Racing Team celebrates a race win here at Paul Ricard. Photographs will be taken in a moment. Representative of the team clambers up as well, and the Spanish team in fine form in race 1 at Paul Ricard. So well done to the NM Racing Team. And as I've been saying, there is, of course, the second race for the GT4 European Series teams coming up a little bit later on in the day. That, the Silver Cup podium then, the outright top 3 as well, with Xavier Lloveras and Luc Ibanez taking race honours, and a great drive by the pair of them. So race 2 with a completely separate grid, but a few lessons learned for 1 or 2 of the teams coming up in a few hours' time. So 3:30, that will be on track, as they're the Pro-Am drivers now step forward. But well done to the NM Racing Team, to Luc Ibanez and Javier Lloveras, winners of GT4 European Series Race 1. From Gemma Scott and David Addison, for now it's goodbye. We'll see you later for Race 2.